My presentation, Kathy invited me to come, and Kathy and I have known each other for quite a few years in our times we've met together in Ontario. So Elaine, I want you to come and talk about Discuss the Undiscussable. And this morning, the clickers are going to be used so that I can have some interaction with you. And so I'll just move that a little bit over there. I'm a member of the Canadian Association of Farm Advisors, and I'll be here for the whole day, so I'm happy to meet with you in the hall. But Sarah did set me up very well, because Sarah and I met yesterday when we were doing podcasts with Amy Strom. And this presentation this morning is going to be taped, and Kathy will have it on the website. So for any of your family members, had a woman, the group that sat with me, it's not that I have bad body odor, but they all left for a different presentation. And I said that's fine, because we're taping this presentation this morning, so it will be on my YouTube channel at Farm Family Coach, and it will also be with Kathy's group at Farm Fresh. So if anyone was here and wanting to be here and couldn't be this morning, you can pass it on. But Sarah very kindly opened up the conversation as you need to have a plan, you need to talk about succession. And my curiosity for you this morning is, how do you feel about fighting? How do you feel about conflict? My name, as you know, is Elaine Froese. In Ontario, you would call me Froese. I don't want to be Mrs. Froese, thank you very much. So I call myself Elaine from Boissevain. And for 35 years, I've been working with farm families. And what I see, no matter what cultural background is, a lot of people do not like conflict. And my passion and my calling is to help you look at it as a business strategy, and also to come to a place where you're going to have a response, not a reaction. You're going to consciously choose the conversations that you need to have. And I have a little metaphor that I got at coaching school called the bull. And I use the play on words, discuss the undiscussabull. There's a bull in the middle of every farm operation represented in this room. And you all know what those bulls are. Sarah was very transparent at sharing her bulls. And then she has to grab the bulls literally by the horns and do something about it. Because Dreamer wants action. And Sarah's, of course, the action person on her farm. So this little bull is my talking stick that I use when I facilitate farm family meetings. And in front of you, Kathy has given you a feedback sheet that looks something like this. And anything that I mentioned in my presentation, I would like you to jot down. Elaine, send me that. I have a couple of sample meeting agenda plans at the back. Are you going to hand out the handouts now, Kathy? I will. Yep, she's my room host. That's great. And we're going to do a draw at the end of the session, and I'll hunt you down if I can't find you in the room. And I'm going to let you go home today with your own talking stick. And this is also part of the branding and the fun. Because is fighting fun? Not if it's unresolved, it isn't. So today I want to give you some tools to help you choose that better response. So my first question is, why are you here? That's not a rhetorical question. You can answer me. Why are you here? And some of you can answer me through giving me a text. Because quite often I'll be working with young farmers and I'll look at my phone and they'll say, Elaine, I'm having a hard time with Mom. Mom really loves her garden. She loves the main yard. She loves the house. She's 74 and she refuses to move. If we're going to get this market thing moving, we have to live where the action is. Mom's not moving. Those are some of the things. So I just would like you to be present this morning and think about, what is it you really want? And when you look at these bulls, do you think they're fighting or playing? What do you think? They're playing. These are my friend Mandy McLeod's bulls. She's from New Zealand. I just saw her in Montreal on Monday. And they're nuzzling. But we're all looking at the same picture, but we can see something totally different based on our filters and our perspectives. And some of you have a woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of filter. I told you so. I told you this wasn't going to work. And there's so much negativity and tension in your farm, you can't move forward because you can't get rid of the emotional baggage and the guck or the muck that you're stuck in. So I really want you each, when you leave convention, to be really clear. What is it going forward for 2014 that you really want? Our son is newly married. He's 25. He's our successor. My husband and I are 57. And everyone comes up to him and says, oh, when are you going to move to town and build the monster house? Not. We don't want a monster house. We don't want to move to town until Ian is ready to be the main manager of our seed business. So we have to always be talking and changing too. Sounds like 2012 was a pretty hard year for fruit growers. 2011 for grain farmers on the prairies was an absolute disaster. We only put in 500 acres out of 5,000. Thank goodness for agri-stability. So we all go through these journeys, so it's very important to keep this question in front of you. Whoops. And yeah, excuse me here, I'm going to go back. Okay, get your clickers out. This is where you vote. Take your clickers in hand. For those of you who just vote, I'm going to open up the poll. The poll is now open. And I want you to tell the rest of the people in the room, what do you want the most? What do you need on your farm to get clarity of expectation? What do you need to get certainty, to know what timelines are going to be in place? I asked Wes, how long are you going to think you're going to need to mentor Ian to train him? And he said, Elaine, it's going to take me 10 years. So by the time Ian's 35, he should be the main person on the yard. And likely that will happen sooner than 35. What do you want in terms of regular business meetings? How are you already putting together mechanisms to communicate and have those crucial conversations? And then some of you are going to choose number 7, which I call my WIMP clause, which is all of the above. Elaine, we want it all. These are the things we need. So far, 33 people have voted. Whatever your response you choose, number 1, number 3, number 7, it will take your last response. Okay? There goes my... That's why we have otter boxes on our phones. Funny thing is, I chose the same one as my daughter-in-law without checking with her first, so mine has a little more bling than hers does, so I'm good. 55 people, going once, going twice. What is it? Before I tell you the results, what do you think people want most off of this list? All of the above. Okay, Ontario, let's see what you voted. Yes, you did. You knew yourselves very well, didn't you? I'll just move this up. It's almost a mountain in a way. The next highest one would have been number 4, regular business meetings. And Dr. David Cole has done research with Virginia Tech, and many of you heard Dr. Cole speak, but one of his grad students discovered quite a few years back, out of 400 farms across 6 states, all the people who had regular communication, who took this bull by the horns, passed it around, communicated, put it on paper, were 21% more profitable. What would it look like if you didn't have to build any more buildings this year, if you didn't have to hire any more staff, if you didn't have to increase your acres or maximize your yields another 10%? To be 21% more profitable just by doing this and this. And this is my shoemaker problem. I'm a farm family coach. I have a 5,000 acre farm and a certified seed business, and we also have an export business to Korea with rye, with another joint venture. So like Sarah, our business keeps morphing and growing and changing as well. But the hardest thing for me to do is to get my guys to the table, right, Sarah? Because you're always doing, and that's Sarah's admonition, and which I will echo, is that you can't just be working in the business. As Sarah said, you also have to be working on it. The other thing that you're looking for, when I had the point, timelines are honored, some of you voted for that one. None of us hate to be not knowing. Last night at 2:30 in the morning, was there really a fire or not? I put my pants on, I put my socks on. I didn't leave my room because my roommate is from Toronto and she had a condo that always went off with fire alarms, so she wasn't too angst about it. Sarah and Kathy were on the pavement, okay? That's how we all react differently. So we all make a choice. Do we like the not knowing? So this is what William Bridges calls the neutral zone. And not knowing, guys, is high stress, high anxiety. And it's like when you're dating and you're not engaged yet and you don't know, is this the guy or not? When a ring goes on the finger, that's kind of a good sign that, yeah, it is the guy and there is going to be a marriage. So this neutral zone is what you're stuck in, and what you want to work towards is something new. What needs to end? And I just did a webinar with Farm Management Canada. You can find it at agrawebinar.com. Just put my name in the search. And the webinar is called Farm Transition, When Enough is Enough. And unfortunately, some of you have neighbors where enough has become enough. We just bought land this spring because our neighbors, after 28 years of marriage, got divorced. And all of the land is being shared amongst the neighborhood, thankfully. But enough became enough. And sometimes what Dr. Henry Cloud says, the author of Necessary Endings, is you can't start something new. You can't have a beginning until you get rid of the bad, like Sarah's garage. She got rid of the bad and created something beautiful. Something new had to begin, and as with her avenue. The other thing I want you to figure out is, why is this so hard for you? Where is your mindset? I am positive. I love life. I'm a coach. I'm the eldest of 5 children. After lunch today, we have group therapy in this corner for all the firstborns in this room, okay? Because we're the responsible ones. We're the drivers. We're the go-getters. We take care of the rest of the 6 kids or the 5 kids. But what is your intent? Why is what you want to do so important? Because I can't read your mind. You can't read mine. So what you have to do is go to the next phase, which is the action phase or the talking phase. My husband and my son just bought a very expensive color sorter, which uses new technology to take barley out of hemp seed. When you go to Costco and you buy those orange and foil bags of Manitoba hemp hearts, those are from our farm. And growing hemp's a kind of funky kind of thing to do. You get lots of visitors in your field thinking it's something else. Right? So Ian comes home from university and says, Dad, we need to grow hemp. And my husband of many years seed growing says, but Ian, we have such beautiful, clean fields. And he says, that's okay, Dad. So what Ian did is he drew up the business plan, showed it to Wes, got the contracts in place and said, hey, Dad, what do you think? He said, let's do it, son. Let's go for it. So the effect here for us in 2012 and 2013, but particularly in 2012 when we had to have a major comeback year, is that the hemp was our best cash crop. And we would have never have grown it had Ian not gone through the process of why this is important, how we're going to do it, and what the outcome could be. So just remember, when you're doing conflict, when you're grabbing that bull and trying to do the tough conversations, remember your why. And that's why I asked you, what do you want? Because when you're really clear on what you want, then you have the freedom to ask and to share your why. Does that make sense? Okay? And don't jump really fast to the how. Because you're all farmers, you're all kind of fix-it people. You know, you put a crop protection agent on and bingity-bang, 10 days, the quackgrass is supposed to be dead and the fruit's supposed to be protected and it's all supposed to be good. So you're used to applying and fixing. But what you have to understand here is it's not the outcome of the how that's so important. It's like the process and the journey and the why. So be careful to share your intent. So I've named it the Undiscussabull. And Kathy has books for sale at her booth, but this is my book, Do the Tough Things Right. And on your feedback sheets, if you'd like a copy, I'd like to send you a copy of the Key Challenge Audit, or if you want a copy of it, you can just go to my website. But what it is an audit sheet for each of your family members for you to figure out what is really going on. Is fairness the issue? Is it finances? Is it identifying tension triggers? And this is the sheet that I send to every coaching inquiry that I get to help people figure out what is going on in our farm. So I'm curious, what is the most important stuck, undiscussable thing in your family right now? Is it income? Is it cash flow? Is it where is the money coming from? Is it, you know, Elaine, it's Dad's way or the highway? And the younger generation, I work with the Canadian Young Farmers Federation. Many young farmers are highly frustrated because they come back to farm with their parents. They have great IT, they have great knowledge, great energy, great labor, great backs, but somehow in the mix their opinion has no effect. And that cannot go on forever and ever without the farmer coming to a point and saying, Elaine, my dad will not let go. I am going. And I'm just dealing with a situation right now where I have done an intervention, the accounting firm has done an intervention, and no matter how many interventions there are, nothing changes. And so you need to understand that sometimes when you start having these hard conversations, you're opening up things that you really need to be able to sit with. Also, it might be the growth or the vision for the farm. How much is enough? I'd like you to write down on a piece of paper, if you're here with your spouse this morning, write down how much income is enough for you in a year. And then look at your spouse's answer. How much is enough? Wes will say just a little more than the neighbors. And he's just joking. He's just joking. And then there's the thing about, well, the non-business siblings. And I don't know if you've heard in the prairies, but we're having an oil boom. And we have oil patches in Saskatchewan and southwestern Manitoba where I live, and in northern Alberta and northern BC. And that oil patch is creating a very interesting dynamic for farm families. Because the kids will go off and make good money, and then they'll come back when they want to start having families to the farm. But now that the price of land in Saskatchewan has gone up by 23% in 1 year, and in Manitoba by 11% before the market started slipping in December, other people who said, oh, I'm never coming back, guess what? The farm is looking like a bit of a golden goose. And so kids are coming back now. So now we have fighting around, sorry, this farm, this market, this orchard, this vineyard, we can only support 3 families here, or 2.5. There's no space for you. So there's a whole thing about right to farm. So I want you to vote again. If I can find my mouse here. I'm opening up the polls. I want you to vote. Out of all of these challenges, which one is yours? Is it fairness between siblings? Is it your financial cash flow? Is it just the fact that the tension never stops and you can't seem to get resolution? Is it a lack of respect or forgiveness for mistakes? Sarah was very clear that the culture in her workplace is, Elaine, we learn from our failures. We have to learn from our failures quickly. Our John Deere tractor, which is only a year old, burned in 15 minutes the same year we had no crop. The good news is we had insurance. The bad news, it was on social media in 3 minutes. Everybody knew that the phase tractor, see, look at this beautiful picture of a tractor burning. Do you forgive the mistakes that your employees make? Is there a culture in your workplace of it's okay? Fear of failure. The founder's biggest failure that I see is his fear. Sorry, I'll start again. The founder's biggest fear is that he's built this wonderful organization up with his spouse, and 40 years of hard work is sitting here right beside the interstate or beside the 401. And that business is going to transfer. Is his son and daughter-in-law or daughter and son-in-law going to be more successful and make it bigger? Or are they going to lose it all in the next 5 years? So he's not willing to shift ownership totally because he wants to hang on to a piece of that control because he's dearly, dearly afraid of failure. Is he going to tell you that to your face? Not likely. And that's why I get hired as a facilitator to be like the pigeon on the balcony looking down on the farm family and saying, wow, I'm just curious. You're sort of tearing up here. I just wonder, have you got some hesitation about transitioning 100% of the shares to your son because he might just flip and sell this to the highest bidder 5 years from now? And the farmer looks at me and he goes, oh, Elaine, how did you know? I said, not rocket science. A lot of you have that same fear. And for women, the fear is roles of usefulness and relationship and not being rejected. And so those are the moms that want to be at Grand Central Station and hang on to the cinnamon buns and the coffee hour at the main house. And they're not willing to transition into a different role. Okay, only 25 of you have responded. I expected you all to be multitaskers. So what would you vote? What is your key issue? Fulfillment of roles means that you feel passionate about what you are doing and you want to keep doing it, which is why Country Guide just had an article called How to Fire Dad, or Why Dad Won't Retire. Did you know that 30% of farmers never retire, according to an Iowa study? And when I say to a farmer, I bet you're never retiring, they say, I really like you, Elaine. I said, of course you do, because I understand you. I said, you're not retiring, but your role has to shift. The day that Wes's dad hit the hydro pole with a 110-foot harrow bar, kind of went like this. We said, Dad, you hit something. He said, how did you know? Well, it's kind of bent at the end, Dad. Sorry, Dad, but your tractor driving days are now over. So shifting roles. And then the last one is the stress mess. And I'm a survivor of a very serious postpartum depression. I would have loved to have 4 children. When I met Sarah yesterday, I said, bless you for having 6 kids. But having babies for me was not a good physical activity. So I'm very conscious that you may be also not able to talk about the tough issues because there's depression that's not being addressed. And circumstantial depression is the years when the cherries get pitted with the hail and the apple blossoms freeze and all kinds of other things go wrong. Okay, 49 of you voted. 6 of you are taking a nap. Are you coming in? Going once, going twice? If we can get up to 55, there's more clickers at the front here if somebody needs one. Okay? Interesting. Wow, I'm very surprised. All right, let's just unpack this a bit here. Your key challenges, the top one that you voted is forgiveness and respect. Well, I guess we'll be back again next year there, Kathy. We'll do okay, that's interesting. And how are you building that respect? Stephen Covey's son has a book called The Speed of Trust, and he believes that trust can be rebuilt. So I'm curious what parts of respect are not happening there. It's tied for fixing your stress mess and finances. And I somehow guess that those two are interlinked. That when you're not getting the cash flow that you need, when interest rates are kind of, not sure where they're going. And on the prairies, what's happened now with our grain elevators all being plugged to the yin-yang is that people who thought they could market their grain can't. And I have stressful emails from farmers who say, Elaine, I can't make my machinery payments and I can't pay my utilities. And they're the ones who always let somebody else take care of their marketing. So they're in a pretty bad place right now. What else have we got here? Very close is number 6, fulfillment of roles. Do you understand that most of you in this room are not 21 anymore? Okay? And I told you I'm 57, and there's a reason why I told you how old I am, so we'll get on with that. But interestingly enough, I've never seen this number 4 so high before, so if you want to grab me in the hallway and talk about that, that's great. But all of these points are all intertwined and kind of all work together. And so this is the book, and those are the chapters of my book, exactly how I listed them. So my first question around fairness, if you're going to have a crucial conversation, these are some of the questions that you should be talking about. Do you as partners agree what fairness looks like in your farm? And if you want a PDF copy of all my PowerPoint slides, just write it on your response sheet. Elaine, send me the slide presentation so you don't have to write down all these questions. But look at these questions. Is the compensation structure fair? Why does the brother who came back 10 years later get the same salary as Sarah and Dreamer who've been there right since 2003? That's not fair. And how about management responsibility? What if one family member has way more stress and way more responsibility and way more skill versus the other family member who's just happy to be the employee? Do you see where I'm going with this? And Dick Whitman, which is another great tool for you to get from Whitman Consulting, WITTMAN.com, whitmanconsulting.com, a good management friend of mine from Idaho. He's an amazing binder with all kinds of templates, and I have templates that I use from Dick's work as well. So if you want a compensation worksheet to help you figure this out, write that down on your resource sheet and I'd be more than happy to give it to you. And then it also says, does the business serve the family or does the family serve the business? Kathy's walking around with a tag on her name tag that says workaholic. I'm going, seriously? She said, yeah, Elaine, I am. She works really, really hard. So when you're working really, really hard, is the farm becoming a monster and consuming you? Is the family serving the business, or is the business serving the family? That's a huge tipping point in mindset for you to figure out how you're going to do your life. Okay? So let's think about that. Dr. John Baker is a friend of mine who's a lawyer and a professor from the University of Iowa. He also talks about fairness in terms of sweat equity. How many years of equity of sweat, blood, sweat, and tears have you put into your farm, and how are you compensating that? And so he'll change, and again, I have this, you just write down Dr. Baker on your resource sheet, feedback sheet, and I'll send this to you. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and it helps you compare what your farm net worth looked like when you were 20, what it looked like when you were 30, 40, and 50, and you can plug the numbers in, and you can see how that works out for sweat equity. Finances. These are some of the questions. This is a huge stressor for 17% of you. What does it look like for your farm? Is your farm viable? How do you know what your profit centers are? Where are you making money? Where is it leaking away? Okay? And my curiosity, because I have a degree in home economics, 1978, University of Manitoba, is, do you have a hot clue what you spend on family living? And it's not $28,500. Because if it is, you're thinking still stuck in 1981, okay? So you need to know how much of your farm income is going to your family living costs. And again, with the next generation, this becomes a fight. because there's some next-gen young people who watch way too much HGTV. And David Chilton, the wealthy barber, the guy who's on Dragon's Den, his saying is, Canadians are suffering from granite top syndrome. Did you get that? We are suffering from granite top syndrome. If you don't have granite tops, you are not successful and you have not arrived. Well, that's crazy. I don't have granite tops and I never will. I have tops that look like granite. They're Formica. They're still way too expensive. So what are your discussions around money? And there's another really good book called Moolah La, Why Smart People Do Dumb Things with Their Money. And this is the daughter-in-law problem, right? Everything was fine until he married her. Everything was fine until she took the farm credit card to Toronto for the weekend. Okay? So these are some of the questions. And then I have in here great advisors you can trust. And I'm a member of the Canadian Association of Farm Advisors, cafanet.com. All of us are into lifelong learning and developing our skills as farm advisors. And you have an accounting firm here that's in the trade show. Rick Wisemer is part of that group. And Rick and I have a relationship. We've done some things together. And I'm always looking for good referrals for people, because if you don't like your accountant and don't trust your accountant or don't like your lawyer, get rid of them. Say goodbye, I'm moving on. And don't let loyalty be the thing that keeps you stuck, because that's probably not helping your finances, okay? Unresolved conflict is costing you money. I already told you you'll be 21% more profitable if you talk. Denying your successor any kind of ownership will cost you the business or cost your successor. I have 50-year-olds from Saskatchewan saying, Elaine, I'm 50 and my dad will not let me own anything. And I just say one thing, why are you still there? Why are you still there? Because he thinks he has no other options. Learn how to fight better and resolve business issues, and it's going to happen. So this is the part that you all voted on that was really important to you. What is your workplace culture? Are you allowed to make mistakes? The day that Ian cut the corner too close with our brand new grain cart full of certified seed, he popped the big tire off the grain cart. Do you know that those tires cost $3,500? They do. And Ian's now so good on the internet that when I backed up with my John Deere combine into the fuel truck because our new employee didn't understand that we have a protocol of not parking vehicles behind vehicles that Elaine drives, because Elaine has all of her accidents backing up, because I was emptying the combine into the grain cart to clean out the augers, and I didn't want to get grain all over the tractor, so I started backing up. Well, I just touched the truck, but I bent a hydraulic cylinder right above the straw choppers. That hydraulic cylinder at John Deere, and I'm sorry they're here today, John Deere was $1,100. But in the U.S. it was $400 because Ian found it on the internet. And we only live 15 miles from the U.S. border, so sometimes we make a little quick trip to our border stop to get some savings. But the whole thing, do spouses have input and respect? My next book is called Farming's In-Law Factor, and it'll be launched in April. Farming's in-law factor. Are the in-laws causing you any conflict at all on your farm? Because in-laws, like Sarah and like me, we come from a different way of looking at things. Our filters are different, and maybe we don't even have any of those filters. And so we see things different. And here's something for you to write down. Different is not wrong. It's just different, okay? And it's okay to have a different perspective. And here's another thing. Intentionally encourage the heart of your business. And we're going to expand on that this afternoon in this room at 3 o'clock. So I'm doing another hour presentation this afternoon called Encouraging the Heart of Your Business, which apparently is what you want because this is what you voted for the most. And then here's another life-breaking concept. Why would you not ask for what you need? I need not to have a 5-acre garden. I'm a good Mennonite farm wife if my garden is only a third of the size it used to be. It's okay if Elaine Froese does not make homemade cinnamon buns every Saturday or borscht on summer borscht or whatever, right? I'm actually an Englander who married a Mennonite, so I love to dance. And next year I'll come back and do the Highland Fling for you, and it'll be a whole new thing, okay? Family inheritance. And this is where the whole conversation around succession planning, transition planning is labor management ownership for now when you're living, but you also have to think about when you're dead, right? So I want you to have your powers of attorney up to date for when you're alive, but I also want you to have a current up-to-date will. I want you to know who your executors are, and I want to know, why did you choose the executor that you chose? Because time goes by and all of a sudden that young, capable successor would make a really good executor of your estate because he's in business or she's in business with you. And you still have Uncle John. What's that about? So all of these things are really, really important. And I've got here, next generation wants to leverage equity. Poor Ian was 21 years old when he was renting land, and his landlord said, Ian, if you don't come up with $220,000, I'm going to sell this to someone else because I'm breaking your lease. So even with a lease agreement, he broke the lease. And Ian said, oh, this is interesting. I'm penniless and I have to come up with $220,000. So what we did is we gifted him a quarter section of land that was worth $100,000 because he someday wants to have bison. And this quarter section is perfect for bison. It's by a creek, it's fenced, and it's only half croppable. So we gifted it early while we're still living. Concept here, gifting with a warm hand instead of a cold one is my mantra for success. Getting as much transferred as you can when you trust that the person you're gifting it to is going to make good use of it. Because now Ian could take that $100,000 quarter and leverage it with his loan, young farmer loan, for the new quarter. Do you see where I'm going with this? And when you get ownership, guess what happens? They start caring about the weather forecast. Dad, there's frost coming. Dad, there's hail coming. We got our hail insurance up to date. Dad, we need to get this done before the rain. What's the rain delay on this pesticide? Do you see where I'm going with this? So getting some skin in the game is also part of it. Then what are you really afraid of? My biggest fear is my husband dying, because I'm 57. The average age of a widow in Canada, women, is 56. I am the poster child for a widow in Canada. And now I'm old. I'm 1 year older than 56. And many of you know Maggie Van Camp. She comes from around this area. She writes in Country Guide. Her husband, Brian, died under a bucket just before Christmas. Maggie is now a widow at 47, and she's on sabbatical. And Maggie's a friend of mine. And we just wrote an article in November called If I Should Die. And she said, Elaine, we had no idea. I said, no, Maggie. In November, when we wrote that article, we had no idea. And I'm not here to instill fear in you, but I do somehow want to kick your butt. Because talk is cheap and talk does not cook rice. You can come to the seminar next year and say, oh, Elaine, great seminar. It was really interesting to listen to you. I don't care. Because if you go away today and do absolutely nothing, Kathy and I are not going to be happy campers. Because we need you not to just sit and listen and take in. We need you to act. We all need to act. Because thinking either or is keeping you stuck. And that's called a polarity. It's both. It's both planning and acting. It's working and playing. Send Kathy your extra Aeroplan miles so she can take a holiday. Okay? There you go. Then there's your stress mess. What are you doing? What are you doing to physically take care of your stress? Okay? And I just need to check my time here. Working on your body, mind, and spirit health. Having that connection to him. And also, who is your emotional support system beyond your family? Who can you talk to? I have Thank a Farmer sticker on the front of my laptop. There's a few on the table here. But if you go to ruralsupport.ca, which is our farm stress line in Manitoba, from Ontario, you can be part of the live chat. They now have a live chat for farmers to talk to each other and say, hey man, I'm having a bad day, or does anybody know somebody who can help me out with this? And it's just another way for you to vent and get support. And also the boundaries between family time and business time. So we're into the Olympics right now, and you've seen this. But this, on my key challenge sheet, is point number 35. What do you want to get rid of? Elaine, I want to get rid of my black and white sweater. And I was going, what's your black and white sweater? And the mother says, I'm tired of being the referee, the one in the middle. And in conflict resolution, this is called triangulation, or triangles. Would you go tell Dad I'm really mad at him? Would you go tell him I can't take this anymore? Would you go tell my son he's driving me crazy? And who's the one in the middle? Typically, it's us, the women, the chief emotional officers of the family. And some of you are tired of the CEO position. And you don't want to be the person in the middle anymore. So boundaries that you have between the farm and family time, and also boundaries of how you have age. Okay, now you get to vote again, and this is for Kathy's benefit and mine. I want you to tell me how old you are. This shouldn't be a hard question. If you're in your 20s, push 2. If you're in your 30s, push 3. If you want to hold my hand and you grew up in the 60s, push 6. Okay, if you're 60. If you grew up in the 60s, you'll only be in your 50s. But anyway, none of you in this room, I think, are 90. And this is not a hard question. Oh, we've got a few more participants. Awesome. Before I give you the answers, I want you to look at this very carefully, because I told you I'm 57. I do not like dusting. I do not like souvenirs from Niagara Falls. Okay? I don't want stuff. I'm trying to simplify my life, and that's the quality of life issues for people who are in their 50s. When you're in your 40s, you need to have power and control. So if I get my 35-year-old farmer, who I have right now, he's really smoking mad, because he's trying to get control or some degree of management, ultimate decision-making for his farm, and his father is not relinquishing anything. And we also think there's some dementia involved as well. So this is really important. In your 20s, it's about getting that independence and education. Hopefully your kids have gone away, learned something, and are coming back. In your 30s, it's exhausting because you're raising young children, paying mortgages, and trying to master success. By the time you're 40, it's critical that you have some degree of mastery and control. 50s is simplifying. 60s is looking at what is your future income stream going to be. Because, of course, in Canada, when you turn 65, what does everybody say? What are you going to do with your pension check? How are you going to retire? Have you looked at your pension check lately? It's a great $1,800 a month for most people. Like, it's peanuts, folks. And then your health. And Ralph Waldo Emerson says, your health is your wealth, right? Then we get to 70, which is mentoring. 80s, which is, obviously, hopefully you have your ducks in a row and your documents in place. But I have farmers, particularly in Alberta, who are still ranching at 83, very vital, and love it. And that's fine. There is nothing wrong with that. But there's something terribly wrong if the 70-year-old, the 60-year-old, and the 40-year-old has no equity, nothing that they can call their own. That, to me, is not right, okay? And I need to tell you I'm a little bit Irish, in case you haven't guessed, okay? Okay, so let's see what you voted. Almost. A lot of you are in your 50s. Some of you are only 10 years old. That's amazing. And a few of you are 70, so that's all good. All right, let's move on. So there's another thing that we do. It's called communication styles, and I'll just go through this very quickly. But this is my husband's style. Get it done. I happen to mention the patio furniture needs to be put in the shed for the winter. Bingity bang, the flatbed shows up. All the employees come over. Bang, it's done in about 10 minutes after lunch. That's an awesome thing. But if you're an action kind of person and your style is to communicate, talk's cheap here. Let's not waste a lot of time talking. Let's say bing, bing, bing. This is what we need to get done. And you're dealing with this next kind of person who's process-oriented, you're having a bit of a problem. Especially if you're the bookkeeper on your farm. You hate this slide because I didn't put a period behind the 3 just to bug you. Okay, I did that just to irritate you. Because I am not a detail analysis kind of person, and I am never going to do the books on Froese family farms. I'm very clear about that. But if you're the bookkeeper or you're the process person, you don't want to be rushed. And so if you're trying to get timelines in place for your business plan and for your farm, you want to know that this is the best decision. You want to know all your options, and you want to be able to process it. So that's the process style. This style is relational style. This would be my style. I want to know about your family name. I want to know where your farm is and what kind of products you sell. And I want to have a little history on your family before we get into business. And also in my style, I am very big on relationship selling and referring people I trust. I have zero tolerance for dishonesty. Absolute zero. So when we were dealing with a lawyer lately who was dishonest with us, we walked across the street. And then this would be our son, and this is what I suspect Dreamer is, the idea guy. He has all these big plans and ideas. And so Sarah goes home for lunch, and she has to sit and listen to the big picture. She can't interrupt. Oh, sorry. There's a phone call, but it's not a text. And when people have ideas, particularly in the younger generation, this is where the lack of respect becomes an issue because they aren't feeling like they're listened to. So if you want to figure out what your style is, I'm going to keep going here because of time. Just write down on your sheets, Elaine, send me your communication style assessment and I'll send you this. This is what happens when you're not paying attention though. You get a $14,000 accident on your car as you're backing out of your garage. This is my car. This is the day I almost died in March, backing into a semi. I didn't see the semi coming down my lane, fully loaded with barley. He had nowhere to go because of the trees in my house. Fortunately, nobody died, especially me, because I was the one that caused the accident. So sometimes you get in the habit of communicating and doing and saying things that aren't helping you, and you need to stop. So I've written here, stop. Stop saying but, say and instead. Stop blaming, and stop minimizing the impact. Okay, I'm just going to check my text here to make sure that no one sent me a message. Apparently not. That's all right. And again, you were also talking about forgiveness. So how good are you at making apology? How good are you at making quick repair? And I read a lot of books, and one of my favorite books for marriage repair is John Gottman, 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. And that is, whenever there is a need for an apology, you make quick repair. Okay, so here's why folks won't talk. Do you understand that the silence and silent treatment is a form of abuse? Do you understand that? That when people, thank you, when people give you the silent treatment or stop talking, I'm working with a dairy family right now where the daughter-in-law and mother-in-law stopped talking after the November family meeting. How do you think that's working? Not great. And so you need to understand that when people shut down and stop talking, that's actually a form of emotional blackmail, and that is not acceptable behavior. As a farm coach, I always tell my clients, you get the behavior you accept. So why are you accepting bad behavior? So just look at this list of why folks won't talk. Their timing is different. Their self-worth is only on being a doer rather than sitting in the space to talk. Their emotional bank account is dry. They've had all kinds of negative experience, but nobody has shown them any love and appreciation. And that's what we'll talk about more this afternoon. So I'm going to go through this a little bit fast. I want to talk about your conflict attitude and whether you have an avoidance mentality, accommodating, competing, compromising, or collaborating. And Sarah talked about the neighborhood, about Emerald Avenue, about the collaboration of all the farmers on her street, in her neighborhood. That's what we did when we bought land from the neighbor. We all collaborated and put in the proposal together, and they won the proposal. But collaborating is the goal. That's where you want to be, because if you stay at avoidance, it means you have a low commitment to the relationship. Do you love your family? Do you love your family? It's okay to talk, folks. Yeah, okay. Is there something in the wine last night that's just sort of made you all so mellow? Okay, so avoidance is not working for most farm families, and this is where I want to move you down the line here. So the time is going on, and I want to talk a little bit about resistance and the 10 tools. Richard Maurer wrote this book, Why Don't You Want What I Want? And so I want you right now to rub your temples. Some of you are yawning because you had a hard night last night. Rub your temples, it'll feel really good. Sometimes when you're doing conflict, it's the head thing. It's the not understanding what a unanimous shareholders agreement is. It's not understanding what a 1% interest rate difference is going to make on your operating line of credit, okay? So it could be that. The next thing I want you to do is to find your heart, okay? And that's where the emotional part of resistance is. This farm has been in this family for 157 years. We can't let it fail. Do you see where we're going with this? Or, I love my flowers. You can't make me move. Well, Mom, you can still come back and pick the raspberries. It's okay. It's going to be okay. So sometimes the pushback is emotional. And then the last piece is in the gut, where your instinct and intuition is. And there was a time when Wes couldn't sleep at night after he put in a deal, and he went back to the real estate agent and he changed it, and he offered it to a young farmer. And the real estate agent said, "You're nuts. And he said, it's not right because in my gut, it doesn't feel right. And so he let the land go. And guess what happened? Better land, closer land, a better deal came along 3 months later. And maybe, I don't know what your belief system is, but things happen for a reason. And that was not another text. Okay, so we're going to go into 10 tools for tough issues. On your papers that Kathy's handed out, correct, Kathy? You've handed these out? This is what you can follow along with. But these are all metaphors of working with the bull, of how you can make conflict resolution and discuss the undiscussable happen. So if you don't have a paper, could you pass one to your neighbor or make sure that you have one? And if you don't get one, we can make one available to you digitally later, okay? And please, folks, I'm more than happy to stop and listen to your questions if something's not clear, okay? So the first one is taking charge. There's a wonderful book by Michael Pendelin called Instant Influence. On a scale of 1 to 10, when you go home tonight, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, how ready are you to have a crucial conversation that you know you need to have? Is it a 10, or are you at a 3? Or if you're making approach to your spouse or to your employee or to your successor, you can use this. On a scale of 1 to 10, is this a good time to talk right now? And if he says 2, you know it's not a good time to talk. Okay? So it's a way of quantifying permission giving for whether or not it's good. And when I call someone, one of my first questions is this a good time? Because if it's not, I need you to tell me, because obviously with our cell phones, people are always interrupting us. And we need to respect the communication. So timeliness is key. Also, do not have these conversations when you're tired or hungry. Did you hear that? Do not have these conversations when you're tired and hungry. And apple pie and ice cream sometimes helps as well. Okay? So think about taking charge. Another key concept is coming from curiosity and not judgment. There's a wonderful choice map at inquiryinstitute.com by Marilee Adams. Her book is Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And I sometimes run it off for clients. We always have a choice to be a learner mindset or to be a judger. Do you like being judged? No? Nobody likes to be judged. So you come from curiosity and just say, I'm just curious, Wes, why are you rolling up your black socks and throwing them down the hallway every evening? Which is what my husband has done for 35 years. And it's great because I get to bend over and work on my abs and put them in the laundry basket. And I don't care. It's just an interesting habit he has. But I also say, I'm just curious. I saw the John Deere salesman drive by my office window. What are we buying? He said, oh, it's time to change the combines. I say, oh, 4 years has gone by. Yes. And how much money are we saving? $100,000. I said, oh. So we talk about all these things and we have input. But I'm just curious, what does this mean, okay? So if you learn a couple of things today, intent, action, effect, what is your intent? And if you also learn about curiosity, you're going to have 2 more tools than you had when you walked in the door this morning, okay? So, and also looking at what's triggering you, what style people have, because if you don't care about the relationship, you can walk away from the fight. But I want you to have successful farm businesses and really happy families. And so sometimes you got to face the hard stuff, okay? And rather than saying, I want, I need, I demand, you just say, may I make a request? I just request that after I've just vacuumed all the pea seed and hemp seed and stuff from the back door, that you just shake out your boots outside the house before you come in. And in Manitoba, we've had a horribly cold winter, just like you have here. And I vacuum, Wes comes in, and he does say, oh, sorry. I said, that's fine. I'm not going to get bent out of shape out of disrespect, because Wes does not disrespect me. And so I'm using these domestic examples. But, may I make a request that when you're combining our certified seed plot, you do not cross the isolation strip and contaminate the whole lot, right? Just like when you're processing food, you have to be extremely careful and you have to follow protocol. So you make requests and you clarify. Ask deeply. How good are you at listening? Can you reflect it back? And I say, be soft on the person, hard on the problem, just like a roll of toilet paper. You'll all think of me at the hotel tonight when you're in your bathroom. There's the toilet paper. Elaine said something about toilet paper. I can't quite get it right. It also is true that life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end of the roll, the faster it speeds up. And that's what older people are finding is, Elaine, I don't have time to make decisions anymore, which is why you have to take charge and get it done, right? And think about what you feel. I feel anxious. I feel sad. I feel like my time is not being valued. I feel like I need a holiday. Whatever it is. And you have to understand loss. When people die, you grieve, it sucks energy out of you. When you lose a crop or you lose a dream, it's like a death. It's another form of loss. So just recognize that you're not Mr. Macho Man anymore and that you have feelings and that it's okay to have feelings, okay? Another one is to use the talking stick. So fill in your sheets and we'll see who wins my little Texas Bull. But what's really good about this is that when you're holding this, you get to speak. And everybody else in the family business meeting has to listen. And uninterrupted listening. Do any of you have any problems, of course, with being interrupted? Never, right? Nobody ever interrupts you. Okay. And not prejudging that situation. And then the other part is interests. And interests are at the top of the iceberg, a position and an interest. And what you want to do is get under the iceberg and think about what is it we all want on this farm. We all want profitability. We all want a great feeling of energy to get up in the morning and attack the day. What else do you want? Family harmony, would you like that? Would that be a good thing? So whatever your common interests, you say, why are we doing this? Because we're all working towards a common good. The other thing is, for those people who are process communicators, they don't like to be pushed and shoved. And quite often your 60-year-old farmers feel like they're being pushed and shoved, and they don't want to feel that way. Okay? So consider the other person's perspective. And so here's a good question. Why is this so important to you? Why is this so important to you? And here's another good question. What would you like me to do differently? That's a very powerful question because it puts personal responsibility on you to make shifts. What would you like me to do differently? And then another very powerful question to avoid the parking lot meeting. You know when you go to a church meeting or a school meeting or a Connect meeting or something like that, Kinsman, whatever, and there's a meeting in the building, and then you all go out to your Chevy and Ford trucks, and there's another meeting, right? It's called the parking lot meeting. So when you ask, is there anything else? Quite often people need time to process, and then at the very end of your time together, something huge comes up. And that's when you use a flip chart. I want all of you to go to Staples or wherever you'd like to go and shop and buy a flip chart. Please. It's the best thing. $298, write it off as a farm expense. And use that flip chart as a visual place where you can attack the issue without attacking the person. The other thing I want you to do is buy a pack of blank index cards. And what these are my undiscussable cards. So typically when I'm coaching a family, I'll write down, as you told me this morning, forgiveness. Or I'll write down respect. Or I'll write down trust. And then I'll put the card on the table and I'll say, what is it about forgiveness that we need to address? And I'm not a psychologist, I'm a coach. Counseling is about recovery. Coaching is about discovery, about going forward. I'm not going to deal with all the baggage of yesteryear. But what these cards do, and what Patrick Lencioni has done in his book, Overcoming the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, is he's identified why teams destruct. Conflict, attention to results, lack of trust. Here's another one. Accountability and commitment. And you can see I've laminated these cards because I use them all the time. But you have your own deck of cards, and what this does is you can shuffle the cards and say, okay, what is it the most important thing that we need to talk about today? It's commitment. How committed are we to seeing the labor shortage through? Because our farm needs more workers this July. We can't let them just come for apple season. Okay? So is there anything else? What's next? How you're going to make that happen with accountability. How are you going to build trust? Are you doing what you said you would do when you said you would do it? And if you want, I can send you a very basic activity log. It just says date, discussion, person, action, and status. It's a very simple tool, but I have people put it up on their walls or take it to their business meetings, and it's an accountability tool. It said, Dad, you were going to get that ad in. Sarah, you were going to look at the zoning regulations. Charlie, you were going to check out the new labor pool, whatever the task was. And this is an actual barn in Saskatchewan between Regina and Saskatoon. It's called the Risk and Hope Farm. Not a great name. Sarah and I don't like this name. Hope's not a strategy, remember? Hope's an idea or goal, but it doesn't have feet to it. Then also the boundaries. Are you speaking to me as my mother or as my business partner? What's the deal here? So you need to be clear about separating. You're always going to be part of a family. I'm always going to be my mother's daughter. But my role in my farm changes as I grow older and the next generation comes to be. Okay? So this is the business system. This is the family system. And what happens in farm families is they get all mushed together, and there's no delineation between how we show up as family and how we do business. And sometimes we need to be able to separate them so that we can deal with the family issue versus the business issue. Is that clear? Get yourself some of these if you need them. And Sarah, I'll mail you some. I have extra for you. Okay. We all end up in a box. True? Big one, little one. Whatever size. And unfortunately, I've been reminded that this winter of two acquaintances who've become widows. So you're not taking it with you. So look at what your value system is. Why are you not gifting with a warm hand instead of a cold one? Why are you not letting go and sharing responsibility and becoming that compassionate mentor, father, and mother that your young son and daughter need to have in your farm? So consider your future and also ask yourself, will it matter 10 years from now? And also extend the olive branch. Practice a model of forgiveness. What would you like me to do differently? How have I offended you? What approach can we take together? What would you like the solution to be? On our farm, we are weird. A good weird. We don't work on Sunday. And you think you have a huge farm. Yes, we do. But you know what we also have? Very happy employees, because they get every Sunday to rest and renew. And does the work get done? Yes. Is the work on a farm ever done? No. So it's a choice, and I want you to make better choices. So those are your 10 tools for tough issues. So just in closing, I'd like to remember this phrase with you and give it out to you. Every day you wake up on your farm, you get to make a choice. Is it going to be a great day, or is it going to be a hard day? So remember that it's your farm, it's your family, and it's your choice. So go out and grab that bull by the horns and make it a really good choice. Blessings on your journey. Thank you very much.